Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Escape the Mind Reviews. My name is Brandon, and I am joined by the Soulless Samurai, and I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Tonight, we're going to cover Castle Rock Season 2, Episode 9, Caveat Emptor. How are we doing tonight, Soulless?
Doing well, B. How you doing?
Doing great. Looking forward to starting off another episode to wrap up the season. I'm sad to see Season 2 go, but happy to discuss it with you. Go through all our little details here and see what we think about the final last two installments of Castle Rock Season 2.
A lot to unpack.
So the episode starts off with Pop running away from the crowd in front of the statue and making it all the way to the Emporium Glorium. It doesn't take long for Pop to go through and find his letters, which answers my question that if he actually knew when he saw the reflection of the statue, if it was the kid that was in Pop's letters. Or it was in the warden's letters. So it's cool to have that throwback, another throwback to season 1, and we're kind of bringing together that moment of the kid in the cage, and we're bringing it into season 2 a little bit more and more, and I like that.
Yeah, I'm really appreciating that element as well.
So in a surprise moment after that, we see that Warden Lacey's wife gets body snatched. Definitely not something I did not expect to see her coming back into the show. We quickly learn that they are basically body snatching her for her memory, hoping that she would be able to divulge the location of the kid or the demon. And we basically quickly find out she doesn't know much other than that the warden wrote the letters, which are now in the possession of the collector, which is Pop.
There must be some really important information in those letters. You think that these people would know their angel a little better?
Well, there's a lot of blind faith that kind of goes along with all of that. I mean, especially when you have to eat a bug, slit your throat, and wake up 40 years later.
How very true, yes.
Okay, so we find out that Pop makes his way to the hospital where he finds Nadia, and he finds out that Chris has died. And so as they're making their way out of the hospital, they see somebody come up on a motorcycle. Turns out to be Chance. And she lets them know that basically the goo people are coming around to round up the stragglers, and they're trying to kill everybody that didn't get kind of sucked up into the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I was Chance in this, I totally would have taken the motorcycle and bounced. You could have popped a wheelie, go through a couple rights, couple lefts, get yourself out of there. They're in like a huge SUV. There's no way in heck that they're going to be able to keep up with you.
Yeah, and it's way more on brand for her too. See her running from people on a motorcycle.
But it's nice we're bringing together the crew that's going to foil everything. We're bringing together the people that are finally going to put an end to the goo cult, I feel. So that's why they have to pull those 3 people together. Do you think that are you happy with where they're going with the Chance kind of wrapping her into the town getting burnt down, if you will, rather than having more of kind of like a story between her and Joy?
I don't know. It is disappointing that that dynamic is gone between the two of them, but I am glad that she stuck around, and I'm really curious how her life's going to turn out.
Yeah,
being
for sure.
Wrapped up in all this.
So as they're making their getaway, the shootout ensues between Pop and Abdi and Nadia, or Pop and Nadia and Chance and the goo people. And then Abdi shows up in a Heat-esque moment and crashes his truck into their truck and essentially dispatches of the goo folks. And then they're basically able to kind of start to figure out what they're going to do to foil the plan. They make it back to the Emporium Glorium, where Pop puts the place on lockdown. And it was pretty cool, man. Like, he had a pretty sophisticated little panic room set up for his little situation there. So I guess he's kind of figured he's probably pissed some people off over the years, and he's going to need to defend himself at some point.
Yes.
So we find out that Pop bought the warden Lacey's trailer, and that's how he ended up getting all these letters. The warden said he knew what happened to the people that first settled Castle Rock, and he knew where they went when they disappeared. So I wonder how far down the rabbit hole the warden really knew. Like, do you think he knew literally that they saw this kid and that they sacrificed a bunch of people, including themselves, including, getting ready to wake up at some certain point thereafter? Or do you think he just knew that the kid had minions?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, if he's claiming that he knew what happened to the people, I guess he knows they're under the Marsden house.
It'll be interesting to I wish we could have gone through and read all of the letters, like had a little bit more of I think they flashed some of them, and I actually have some of the text from one, which we're going to get into in a minute. But I wish we could have gotten a little bit more backstory with everything. This is the most in this episode that we get, but I could have lived with a little more.
Yeah. Yeah, I
So,
definitely like to know more what's in those letters.
yeah, I mean, we have some theories that we have going on now with who we think this kid is. We went over that in the past episodes with us leaning towards him being the Crimson King.
Mhm.
So it would be kind of cool to get a little bit more of that like backstory. Like what was he doing while he was in Derry or things like that. That would be
Yeah.
kind of cool.
Yep.
So at back at the Emporium, Pop is there and he has a large stockpile of like pressure cooker bombs, and he's going to use them to booby trap the doors of the Emporium. My only complaint on this is if you're going to send someone to booby trap the furthest away door, maybe use a buddy system instead of sending just one person by themselves the furthest away from everyone else to set the trap. I feel
Mhm.
like it would
And
have
the
been,
youngest.
yeah, much better served to have a buddy system to make sure that that way, if something happened like it did, we had a way of having backup there.
Yeah, you always need an accountability buddy.
And then that way, because someone could have watched the door, because shortly after Chance goes downstairs to the basement, she puts down the pressure cooker bomb. A little part of the bomb comes off, like a little part of the wire. So she
Mhm.
goes back upstairs, and right after she does, an axe comes through the basement door, very Shining esque style.
Yeah, love it.
And we don't know yet who's there, but the alarm goes off. Everybody rushes downstairs to figure out what it is, and it's Anne with Jamal and the other nurse lady, and they have made their way out of the hospital.
Mhm.
And so Pop's suspicious, of course, and he's like, "Hey, how'd you get out?" And Anne's like, "I killed some people." And he's like, "And then?" She's like, "I killed some more people." Probably one of my favorite quick little back and forth that made me giggle when that happened.
Yes.
So Pop decides to utilize his military training, and he's going to basically get them in a room one on one, and he's going to ask them, "How'd you get out? How'd you get over here?" Basically, try to piece together the stories to try to see who's full of shit.
Right.
And during this whole process, he kind of sees that the male nurse who took care of him and gave him his cancer treatments, his earring was missing. And not only was his earring missing, the actual hole or any kind of remnants of him ever even having his ear pierced was entirely gone.
Mhm.
Which I mean, that's pretty observant. I don't necessarily know if I would have picked up on that.
Yeah, but I guess when he was getting his medical treatments, he would stare at the guy. He alone would notice a detail like that.
And one of the things that I thought was really cool about this, because I didn't really know how it was going to play out at first, was when Anne admits to Pop that she killed Ace. And I was like, oh shit, it's about to go down. She's like, yeah, I killed him and I dumped his body, but in the worst place. And she explains that there are tunnels under the construction site. And Pop basically has her immediately take a little book and she draws the caverns and the crypt and the tunnels and everything leading up into the Marston house. So when Pop notices that the male nurse doesn't have his ear pierced, the male nurse attacks. And then before he could kind of do detrimental damage to Pop, Nadia steps in and starts to put him down.
Mhm.
And they get him tied up to the little bed upstairs, kind of misery style. And right after they get him tied up, Ace shows up and he starts to try to make some dealings with Pop. Now, this is interesting because they have a little back and forth. And again, they have more confirmation that the people that are inside, like the goo people, actually have the recollection of the memories of the people that they're, of the bodies they're inhabiting.
Mhm.
And it's kind of like interesting and sad to hear the little back and forth between Pop and Ace because clearly he didn't always treat him super great and maybe
Yeah.
was beating him at certain points. But even underneath all of that, even though Pop didn't treat him well, he still loved Pop and still wanted his, love and his return of those feelings. But clearly that wasn't going to be something that was in Pop's lexicon of love, if you will.
Right. He didn't speak that love language.
So Ace and his merry band of followers are there and they're trying to make a deal with Pop for the letters. And while everyone's distracted dealing with Ace, Anne decides to take the time to interrogate the male nurse alone about the location of Joy. During the interrogation, Anne starts to hear her mother's voice again, right as she picks up a hammer. and I thought his
Mm.
ankles were gonna get it.
Yeah, I thought it was coming. The cobbling.
So during the interrogation, Anne starts to hear her mother's voice again, telling her to find her and that a good mother would never let this happen. And Jamal, I think,
True.
plays probably the worst card he could have at that point and basically starts going into question Anne as to whether Joy should even be with her. If she is stable enough to not hurt Joy, if after what she did to her, if she'll ever be the same again. He says, you'll look into her eyes and you'll never even know who's looking back at you.
Whoa.
So Anne loses it and picks up the syringes and stabs him in the eyes, plungers down and all. And I think we had what, maybe the second most gruesome death in the season?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
Ice cream scoop number one, syringes to the eyes number two.
Mhm.
Or do you put syringes above ice cream scoop?
Nah, the ice cream scoop still takes it.
Ice cream scoop still on top.
Yeah, yep. That was brutal though. I hate any kind of stuff in the eyes and like horror movies and whatnot. Always makes me cringe.
So everyone shows up after the commotion of Jamal getting stabbed in the eyes, and they decide to remove Anne from the situation. Ace calls Pop back up to make a deal. They discuss how he wasn't very nice to Ace as a child. And Pop tells Ace he knows exactly what he wants with the letters, and that's why he burned the letters. In one of the letters, as I mentioned earlier, we got the words to thanks to the internet. So listen to this. This is fun. Alan, there are many faces in the dark, but the eyes are always blank, and the gaze is always ravenous. So debate the gaze every day, or be consumed. No children of our kind, Alan. Hostages to fortune don't stand alone.
It's really poetic yet cryptic.
It makes you wonder, like with these people, with their when they're so wrapped up in the fervor of the angel or the demon or the Crimson King or whatever,
Mm.
if that like imbues you with this speak, if you will,
This prose.
like the old folks speak. So during the conversation between Pop and Ace, Ace basically tells Pop that, you know, for a guy that doesn't have kids and have raised four kids, you basically ruin the lives of four kids.
Mm.
So essentially now you are someone that started with nothing and now have even less than nothing.
Ouch.
So Pop says to Abdi, like, hey, you know, I put a roof over your head. I fed you. I tried to do good things for you.
Remember
And
milkshakes?
yeah, milkshakes. I took fries right out of Ace's mouth.
Oh man.
and Abdi has the greatest comeback. He's just like, you know what? This is what you've always wanted to hear from my ungrateful mouth. I'm liberated. Thank you. Look at me. I'm liberated. So the group decides they're going to try and make a break for it when the train comes through town because they used to play this game when they were kids when Ace was being a dick. And to get away from him, they would essentially try to run across the train tracks to beat this really long train. Essentially, that would give them a half an hour head start to get away from Ace, which essentially they're going to do again. But the body snatched Ace guy, you would think would know about that. But hey,
True.
we're not going to talk about that. Yeah, actually, I just really thought about that because why wouldn't he, if he has Ace's memory, wouldn't he know when he hears the train that that's probably what they're going to try to do to get away too?
Yeah, probably.
Plot hole.
Mhm.
So, Pop basically tries to decide to make his peace with Nadia, but she's not having it. And she tells him if she survives, that she's going to leave town and never look back. I wonder if this means that she's never going to be a reoccurring character after this season.
Oh, that would suck.
Yeah, I mean, I think are you with the characters that we've had so far? I'm jumping the gun a little bit with our conversation, but hey, why not?
Mm.
I really like Abdi, Nadia, Chance, Joy. Well, but and I mean, I would be very happy to see them reoccur in future seasons for sure.
Same. Yeah.
So Pop basically takes Nadia's rejection as his cue that the only thing that he can really do at this point is to make sure the kids get out alive, even if that means he himself is not going to make it. He straps up with a bomb vest and he tells Ace that he's going to have a hard time bringing him back if he's blown to bits, and that's Ace's cue to storm the Emporium. I was kind of wondering at this point because they know the place is booby trapped, but they still just race right in. Like, you guys have a little bit of free will, right? You couldn't have tried some kind of MacGyver shit or something to try to get yourself in there without blowing everybody up.
Yeah. Yeah, throw something in there onto the bomb. Don't just running all Leroy Jenkins.
It's I was surprised. I mean, like, because we know the cop that they have some free will. I
Mhm.
just figured they would do something. They just ran right in there like lemmings. So as everybody's trying to make their escape through the basement, Chance gets grabbed by Timothy, and Anne immediately shoots him in the head. I felt like this was kind of like a wasted Timothy moment, if you will. With so much that happened between him and then them kind of hiding him in the background to where like he's right there, but if he had his glasses off, he looked kind of different. I didn't really notice it was him initially. And
Mhm.
then I'm like, man, I really feel like they could do this awesome. Like the kids don't know he's turned and he could be like a, double agent, if you will. And then boom, he's there, he's gone right in the same 2 seconds.
You were really invested in that guy too.
I thought they could have done so much with it because he got
Mm.
turned off screen. Why
Right.
do that if you're not going to use it later or for a 2 second and then he's dead.
Mhm. And it's gone.
And also, as they're walking out, Nadia has a shotgun in one hand and a pistol in the other. I don't think this is a very good defensive strategy. I think you
Mm.
should pick one. Either
Yes.
double up on the shotgun or put the shotgun down and hold the pistol. That way, you have a chance at hitting something because shotguns kick like a mofo, and I don't think you can one hand it.
Nah. Yeah, I don't see that going well. Maybe her plan was to fire all the rounds off in the pistol, throw that at them, and then use the shotgun.
That would be a solid strategy. As long as you're using up everything in the pistol first and then switching over to the shotgun, I got it. Buckshot, birdshot, buckshot, buckshot, buckshot. Gotta love Dave Chappelle. So Pop locks himself in the Emporium to give the kids more time to get out, essentially separating himself from everyone else trying to leave because he doesn't think he's going to make it. Because, of course, with his cancer, he's not sprinting anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah.
And the other nurse, Evelyn, gets whacked on their way out as well, still leaving us with the contemplation of was she gooified or not? Because we thought she was, but she ended up dying and really serving no purpose. So maybe.
Yeah, the way she went out, I just kind of assumed that she was normal, but I think you had pointed out that she seemed turned early on in the season. I don't know.
So Pop injects himself with a whole bunch of Haldol, and he then takes a battery. Well, he kills a whole bunch of goo people first, like a badass that we know he is. And then he goes to face up with Ace. But before he faces up with Ace, he pops one of the batteries out of the detonator, and then he hops into the room, kind of leaving me a little mystified. Like, did you want to get turned? Did you want to get rid of that cancer? Were you trying to beat the system? Like you had get a lifetime supply of Haldol. You just keep that French dude at the back of your mind, and then you can just live forever.
Yeah.
And there's a nice little back and forth between Pop and Ace, where Pop's like, "How deep do you have the body stacked, Gus? Can you just slip into a new one, like a new kimono?" And then Pop faints, hitting the trigger of the detonator. And when Ace flinches, he's like, "Ah, so you can't change bodies." I
Mm-hmm.
like that. That was good. So Ace offers Pop a chance of being immortal. Pop says no deal and pretends to push the detonator. He pretends he messed up, that he basically sits down, packs a bowl, takes a hit, and immediately after he is dispatched by Ace. And I'm still left with the question of he did inject himself with the Haldol.
Mm-hmm.
Do you really think it was a sound strategy to feel like you could beat death in that way? Like I don't know if I would have had that same thought.
It seems risky. It's a bold move, but I think it was his plan.
Yeah. So the kids make it past the train. They radio Pop. They realize Pop is gone. And then that's the end of the ninth episode. So I felt like this was pretty good. I mean, we're at the next to last episode of the season. We're wrapping up a lot of stuff. We're finding out more about the kid than what we've ever found out before, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
So, what would you score the episode? Again, episode 9 in Castle Rock season 2, Mr. Solus.
I'd say 8.5.
I think I'm right there with you, right about in the same area. with us having these kind of like getting to the point where they're starting to wrap things up and we're starting to see what maybe could be the last time that we see some characters on screen, do you feel like you're getting yourself to a happy place with this now? Or do you feel like we're getting set up for failure?
Still a little tough to say because they're like with Timothy, you know, that kind of just cutting that off the way they did makes you wonder, are they going to resolve all this stuff? There's probably going to be lots of questions left, kind of like the end of the first season. How much are they going to get into? But I that's part of the fun of it too. Is
And that's kind of my point is that with season 1, my least favorite part of that season was the finale.
mm,
So now I'm obviously nervous that heading into season 2 that the finale of season 2 isn't going to live up to what I want it to be. So I really do feel like season or episode 9 ended up being my favorite probably of the
oh yeah,
season, not to spoil where we're going to be going with this here in a minute,
Mhm.
but I really enjoyed the assault on the Emporium. I thought that was really cool.
That was a cool scene.
I thought Tim Robbins did a really great job being a badass in that moment of stepping up and doing cool things. Um, and like I said, these characters are I'm invested now. Like I'm be very happy to see them end up reoccurring at some point in time. Like we haven't had a
Yeah,
ton of reoccurring characters this season from the first one, but it's the more that they do it, the more it's I'm sure going to be a fun thing. Like maybe down the line, like how American Horror Story did it, where you have
hmm
people playing like entirely different roles, maybe even or something like that.
yeah.
Cool. So that was episode 9 of season 2. We're going to give it an 8.5 to basically wrap that one up. I want to jump right into episode 10, which is called Clean. And we're going to put this baby to bed,
It's almost as foreboding as Caveat Emptor.
right? And so we learned with that you mentioned that the buyer beware.
hmm
Then I wonder if that's going to end up being the what Pop's trying to sell Ace.
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah. So the episode starts with Ace dragging Pop's body out of the Galorium. Ace pulls up to the house, and everyone's still outside staring at that statue.
Mhm.
They carry Pop's body down into the crypt. And so basically, what we can see is them trying to turn him over to the dark side, if you will. So hopefully, that Haldol that he took will keep allow him to still be the double agent that he hopes to be. We're going to see in a minute here that Pop ends up because they show you the whole process of like the goo kind of like overtaking his face and all that fun stuff.
Yep.
I wonder if what part Pop woke up and was like, "Oh shit, what's all this goo for?" Like,
Right, yeah. It's a hell of a way to wake up.
right? So we see in the next scene, Ace's merry band of followers are preparing for the arrival of Amity, complete with getting Joy prepared in a wedding dress.
Not creepy at all.
Right? The people have forgotten this is the angel's world, Ace says. Now we are going to take it back in his name. And the people
Mhm.
outside are going to be the angel's army. So we now know at least what the plan was for that, which we kind of thought like minions, people to do your bidding. Either that or I really thought that they were just going to lemming them right off the cliff in the beginning, right into the
Yeah.
lake.
I guess you always need people to run into, buildings with bombs in them.
There you go. Yeah, I love it. So Abdi, Nadia, Anne, and Chance have made their way to the construction site. Anne believes if they destroy the house and everything in it, the people will snap out of their trance.
Hmm.
Abdi has a large amount of explosives at the site that he rigs some bombs, and they appear that they are going to give Anne a chance to save Joy before they blow up the house and the crypts underneath. So Ace meets with the person that's now inside Pop's body, since we believe he may be turned. He explains that he knows about the angel's sound, that Castle Lake is a portal to other times, that it's a doorway. So that's nice to get a little confirmation then that that's kind of how the angel is kind of moving his way throughout the world.
Mhm.
So then I think one interesting question is since season 1 we met Henry Deaver,
Mhm.
like the Skarsgård version of Henry Deaver. Do you think that that Henry Deaver, through his manipulation of this doorway, has become demonic, or do you think it was really the demonic entity all along? I wonder where that storyline fits in.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's a good question.
So while the meeting of the mind is taking place between Pop and Ace, Abdi and Nadia are placing explosives around the crypt. Anne and Chance make it to the mansion, and Chance attempts to make it through the crowd of people, which appears to be working pretty good until she runs into one of the loser club kids, and they start pointing at her and being like, "No, no."
Yeah. Hard Invasion of the Body Snatchers reference there.
And then basically everyone around them follows suit. And then Chance tries to pull her gun, but she's immediately grabbed.
Mm.
Anne attempts to reach the others, but there is no response other than Swamp Mom. And with a good old another jump scare with the find her,
Old Swamp Mom.
Anne runs to the front door and starts banging on the door, saying that they're in the tunnels, they're in the tunnels. Ace sends men into the tunnels after Anne basically gives up the whole jig. So do you think that Anne basically got like super single-minded in that particular moment and was like, I don't even care about blowing it up anymore? Or do you think that she just thought that they would be able to fend off goo people even if he sent them down there?
Yeah, I think she was just one track mind. She only cares about finding joy.
I was kind of surprised at first that she just kind of gave up the whole thing. Like, I mean, I get it. She does get very single-minded in her focus when she gets stressed, shall we say? But I kind
True.
of thought she would be a good person to like, hey man, I got the secret. Like I thought she might keep that shit on lock, but I guess not. So Ace sends men into the tunnels, and of course, Pop volunteers to go with them. They find Abdi and Nadia, and predictably, Pop shows up in his own body to kill the bad guys before they can hurt them.
Mm.
I, I, I didn't really love this. I thought it might have been more like they didn't really give you like it literally happened at the most convenient time. Like they could have maybe found another way to give you a little more suspense to make you think that he hadn't been able to recover himself, if
Hmm.
you will. But basically, Pop lets them know that, he's just been fighting off that guy in the back of his mind this whole time, and he doesn't know how much longer he can do it. But consequently, he can do it long enough to save the day. So he tells them basically to make sure that they blow the first bombs that are under the statue. And then once he has enough time to get everybody out of the house, or Chance out of the house, that they should go ahead and blow up the house as well. So once out of the crypt, they blow the first two bombs, taking the statue and knocking it into the crypt. It appears that this basically knocks everyone outside of their trance and everybody starts to scramble. Pop rescues Chance and makes sure that he hands her his gun and basically handcuffs himself to a part of the house so that he can't get away, just in case that other part of his mind takes back over again. So the statue, after it got blown up, appears to have broken apart at the bottom of the crypt, and all those little beetles are flying everywhere. And but at least it seems like the power that the angel had, or like manifested inside that statue, is no longer having its hold over people. And so while Ace is running to check out the statue and seeing that it's broken, Joy takes that cue to being knocked out of her trance to grab the huge knife that's on the table, and she stabs Ace through the back.
Yeah, brutal. She's getting a taste for killing.
I was kind of surprised that she would have that thought so fast after having so much trauma from Rita, but I guess she got over that shit pretty quick.
Hey, you gotta get back on that horse.
If she don't succeed, try again. So Pop radios Nadia and tells her to blow the house before he can be taken back over, and Nadia blows up the house. We can see that Ace isn't dead from the knife wound. We also see that see the angel show up and then kind of disappear from sight when we can see that the house is blown up. So
Mm.
what I was wondering at first, I didn't know if maybe he was coming through the portal of the lake at another time, but then you can kind of see that he's already there, and then he can see that the house is gone. And I wonder if that's like a source of power for him, or if it was just something that consequently he just needed to like if he's like, oh, I'm just not gonna fuck with that now. Or if he actually was like able to like draw power from the house since it was such an evil place.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's definitely a factor.
So I have to say something. This is kind of where at this point in the episode I started to kind of get lost a little bit because it's like everything kind of cascaded through to this one point, and then everything just kind of fell apart, and then we're just going to kind of never talk about it again. So, like, Ace survives. We can see that he's not dead, but that never comes up again.
Yeah.
So that's kind of odd.
Good point. Good point.
The kid leaves
Mm-hmm.
without his minion or horde or what have you,
Army.
and it's just yeah, okay, I'm just going to turn around and walk away.
Yeah.
Didn't even look like he was that bummed out about it.
I'll try again tomorrow.
So basically, what happens at this point to me is basically they were like, all right, we got to put a bow on this bitch for like the other part of our storyline. And so this is what I'm going to do. And so they had Anne and Joy back on the road again, just
Mm-hmm.
like we started off the season, even complete with some of the same music. And they're back. They're basically moving their way forward 1 week in time. So that's how it is. It's like Angel turns away, Ace is still alive, house is blown up, boom, 1 week later. And that's where I'm like, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it appears that Joy is still struggling with everything and picks up a copy of The Misery Quest by Paul Sheldon, which is a nod to Misery.
Mm-hmm.
She reads the book aloud to Joy, and after they make their way to the Canadian border. Once across the border, they stop at a gas station where there's actually a missing person sign for Henry Deaver on the pump. Not young Henry Deaver, old Henry Deaver.
Yeah. Adult Henry Deaver that we just saw.
So did the kid win at the end of the first season then?
Ooh. I guess that's what that implies, huh?
That's what I get from that.
Yeah.
So Anne does spot a job opportunity on the pump, which she's hoping to turn into her laughing place. Anne and Joy find a new home, complete with a job for Anne taking care of a person who's bedridden. Joy is still not herself, and after everything happens, we're starting to get shown that Anne is wondering if Joy is still inside that body or not.
Mm.
Anne catches Joy watching a show or a movie in French with no subtitles on whatsoever. Anne shuts the TV off, just kind of like, haha, yeah, that's great, and then just walks away. Later on, while she's reading, she sees the phone is in use, and when she picks it up to snoop to hear what's going on, she hears, tomorrow then, I'll be waiting. And then Joy repeats, tomorrow, and then they both hang up. Not creepy at all.
No. Yeah, it was sounded like an older gentleman.
So Anne confronts Joy about it, and Joy says she wasn't even on the phone and that maybe Anne needs to take her pills.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of like I was saying before, I even made a note of this. I was kind of getting mad at this point at the show. We're about 15 minutes left at the show at this point, and we literally don't have any answers. If anything, I have more questions about shit, and the show's about to be over.
Yeah.
So Anne takes her pills and goes to sleep, and that night she hears her mom again. So Anne decides she's going to confront Joy about the time she spent with the body snatchers. And when she does, Joy says she can't remember anything. And that doesn't sit very well with Anne. She finds Joy's drawing book and she finds it's full of pictures of the angel and eyes and all kinds of other fun stuff.
Crowns.
And then crushes up some pills and some ice cream and feeds it to Joy. And after a few bites, she asks Joy if she likes it, and Joy asks her if she put something in it. I'd be sketchy if anything that woman tried to feed me after everything that went down in this season.
Oh, yes.
Her mom replies that she put some Haldol in the ice cream and attempts to hold Joy down for questioning. Joy stabs her with a pen and attempts to make her escape. That's kind of where things deteriorated. They make it down to the dock where Anne pushes Joy into the water and she drowns her. After Anne goes into the house, she finds a letter from Joy. In short, the letter says that she's fine, that she just needs to get away for a while and learn to be herself again. She was on the phone with someone, but it was a lawyer about becoming emancipated, not what her mom thought.
Mm-hmm.
Anne wigs out, runs down to the water, and attempts to rescue Joy. It appears that Joy is okay. She asks what happened, and Anne tells her that she just fell off the dock and into the water, and Anne saved her life. We see again the mother daughter montage of them getting ice cream and driving around to go see
Mm-hmm.
the author do a reading of his book, Mr.
Mm-hmm.
Paul Sheldon.
Yep.
So we're running into now the actual misery that we all know.
Back into familiar territory.
So once we arrive at the author's reading, you start to see Anne's mother and father in the audience. And then the reveal happens. Someone comes up and asks Anne if the seat next to her is taken. She scolds him for asking and apologizes to Joy, who now we know isn't really there after all. So,
Oh,
oh,
man, you
and
wanted
then,
to believe that she came back. You really did.
yeah, you did. For a minute, I did. And
Yeah.
then the last thing that Joy says to her is, "Oh, we have to get him to dedicate a book to you." And Anne says, of course he will. I'm his number one fan."
Mhm.
And that's the end of the show. So, question. And this is my first thoughts because if it's not this, I kind of hate this.
Okay.
So, do you think because they put the bit in there about with the French part
Mhm.
that it really was that she got body snatched and that she was just faking it and she was just trying to make a getaway? Or do you think that it really was just her needing to be like get away from everything?
I'm leaning more towards it was really her.
I think that's the way they want you to feel. I just don't love it. I really don't.
Mm.
Like, if you were going to go this way and you're going to wrap it up out, to me personally, I thought it would have been more compelling if you just made it that something it happened to take, even
Mm.
though we didn't think it was gonna. And now we got to deal with this particular situation. She ends up making her clean after all. Or then we get the lovely sitcom that I wanted, where we have a Shaun of the Dead style where she keeps her locked up on the couch.
Yeah.
I mean, either way, I feel like could have been a little bit of a better option than what we got. I felt
Mhm.
like this was so tagged on at the end. I don't know if you felt this way. I'm curious as to what your thoughts are.
Um, well, I was quite shocked by it. I thought it was pretty good. I guess with, like, having reasonable expectations, I knew that they were gonna have to wrap things up pretty quick. I thought they capped it pretty well. It was a pretty shocking, disturbing ending, where you felt bad for your both of your main characters.
I feel like I almost would have been more satisfied if they just left it at the end of the house and you just show them leaving. And then, or maybe just put a little bit of doubt in there and then leave it
Mhm.
as like a, oh shit, maybe it's not her. And then you end it on that. Cause I feel like it, I don't, I just, it's so rare that I watch a show. And don't get me wrong, very similar to season one. I enjoyed the ride. Like I enjoyed how we got here.
Mhm.
But then in the finale, they leave me with this like feeling of almost anger because I'm like, really? Like, come on. And that's what makes me mad. It's like, if you could do all the, like, if episode 1 through 9's good and I enjoyed the progression that you took me on, then
Mhm.
why is it? I mean, again, it's probably J.J. Abrams, but why is it again that we, at the finale, we can't? I just, if they had just ended it a little sooner and didn't go through all of that, I feel like I would have been that much happier with the whole thing and would have been like, this was cool.
I got you. I got you. I don't know. I thought it left Anne in I don't want to say a good place, but like it sets up Anne, you know,
I get that,
in
but I feel
misery.
like where she was, you didn't have to do that. You could have just been like, we just plucked her out and we just put her in this place and she served this purpose for this moment.
Mm,
We don't have to then line her up to have the life of misery, you know? It could just be it is what it is. Like,
gotcha.
why can't
Yeah.
we just do that?
Mm,
I don't know.
yeah.
I feel like the old
I
man
feel
on his
you.
porch, but that's just
Old man yells at cloud.
yeah. I just I it's so rare that I watch something, man, and I literally got physically angry when it got to that part because I'm like, what are we even doing here?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it's fair.
And that's why I was like, well, if it was truly that she did get flipped and then she kills her and then she realizes it and then she still thinks that it was actually her and she has to live with that regret,
Mhm.
I'm like, okay, I could be cool with that. But for some reason, I just had a problem with the way that it played out. Like after all that, after all the strife those two characters went through together, and all of the arc and storyline that they shared together, it
Mm,
ended the way that it ended the same way it started, but she actually went through with it.
yeah.
So it's like you probably would have saved yourself a whole lot of whatever if you just did it to begin with. I mean, I'm just saying for story purposes. I'm not trying to be morbid or anything, but
Right, no, I mean, it makes sense.
yeah, I mean, it's like she she would have gotten away better because then she's just a single person running. She's not a person with a kid, so Rita can't even track her. So how would
Mm.
Rita even find her? You could make a much cleaner getaway.
Hey, you're calculated, man.
I'm just for story purposes, I just feel like you could have went either way with it. It's like I
Yeah.
don't know, it's like why did we even do this then?
Yeah.
So all right, so I've said what my least favorite part is. What was there any part that to you stuck out in season 2 as something that you felt like could have been done better?
Hmm. Done better, eh?
Did you have any flaws that really stuck out to you or did you feel like everything was pretty did you like the way that everything was set out and presented in the story?
Yeah, I guess I'm just a fan of the universe and wanted to see these things play out, so I wasn't being too critical. I was just along for the ride. So I did appreciate it. I was looking more towards like the things that stood out to me that I recognized and whatnot, like the Easter eggs and stuff. So that's more of the memorable thing to me.
Yeah, I guess maybe it wasn't realistic expectations like you said. Like thinking a bit back at season 1 and just knowing how I felt going into that, I was just really hoping that they had to know that that's how the majority of people felt with the ending of season 1, that's why I thought that they would bring it that much harder with
Mm,
season 2. The season itself, I feel like came with more gusto than season 1. Like more things happened. They almost burnt the town down. Like
yeah.
there was seemingly more at stake than just the lives of some incidental people, even though you had that entity of evil in the first season, which I kinda liked.
Mm-hmm.
It was just 2 contrasting styles.
Yes. Yeah, very much so.
So what were your favorite parts of season 2? What were the things that you felt like were the best parts of it?
Annie's crazier moments were great. The ice cream scoop.
I think that's a great point. I think Lizzie Kaplan as a whole was
Yes.
probably the best part of this season.
Yes, agreed.
Like, she really embodied that character amazingly well.
Mhm.
And then again, the supporting cast I thought was really good too. There wasn't anyone that I
Yeah.
really felt was lacking.
No, I wanna know more about Gordy LaChance. I wanna know more about Jackie Torrance. That's somebody who was missing in this one. I'm really curious to see if she pops back up. The other thing that I after season 1 ended, well, I guess more appropriately when season 2 started and was, like, completely different, but then the way that this wrapped up and brought back season 2 or season 1 into the end of season 2, um, that wasn't the finale of that story. So now I'm not really looking at the season finale as wrapping everything up because I realize it's like a serial.
Yeah, no, I definitely think you're gonna end up seeing possibly the angel be the reoccurring evil force through each season.
Mhm.
So like, and that's where we were saying like we were pretty much leaning. I don't think I'm speaking for you in this one with saying like we think it's the Crimson King, right?
I'm still voting like Randall Flagg or one of his underlings. It
Okay.
seems like small beans for a Crimson King to be to doing like there was a lot of imagery and stuff that I think pointed toward the Crimson King, but if it's an agent of the Crimson King who worships up him anyway, you still might get that imagery and stuff.
Yeah, that's true. So I think that'll end up being probably like the reoccurring kind of force through the next several seasons because essentially with what they have set up here, you could recreate and re-burn down the town almost every season.
Yeah, and that's an element I really like.
Yeah, I like that you can go that far with it. Like you
Mhm.
could choose to make it more of an individual horror thing for like a specific group of people, or you could really bomb out the whole town with it.
Yeah.
So what would you give season 2 as a whole for your review out of 10?
I'm gonna stick with my 8.5. I think that's about my average. I really like this season, especially compared to season 1. The pace, um, the brutality at times. Lizzie Kaplan, um, what's his name? Pop
Yeah, Tim Robbins.
Tim Robbins. Yes, thank you. Like they were great.
I think I'm close to that. I'd probably say more like 7.5 to 8 range for me, just because I just was so disappointed by the end, the very last little part of it. But like I said, I really did enjoy the ride getting there. I'll be there for season 3 for sure.
Mm,
I feel like if season 3 doesn't find ways to deliver for me though, I might be out after that.
I got you.
So I have to really see because like I love Stephen King, I really do. But we're starting to get other things now, like The Outsider and different
Mm,
shows that are coming around in durations like that. So I wonder if for these guys, they're going to feel the pressure of having other adaptations out there now that are kind of like maybe doing it better. Like they have the HBO kind of money that they can play with and
right.
the cinematography and everything that they can kind of do a little more upscale than what you can do on a Hulu show. I would imagine HBO is a bigger budget than Hulu does.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's going to be interesting to kind of see where things go from here. We saw Christine in the parade,
Hmm.
so I think a lot of people feel like that's where the next season's going to be leaning towards. What do you think?
That would be cool. I would like to see something done with Christine. I'm not sure if it's going to be next season. He has to show up eventually as Leland Gaunt from Needful Things. Like he shows up in the book, he shows up in Castle Rock and opens up a shop in Evil Things and just starts like manipulating everybody. And um it turns out that he's like a demon. I think it could be done really well if they brought him in. He would be somebody that could really just burn all of Castle Rock down. And he would work with any of these existing characters still.
And I think it would be cool too to have like a Father Callahan type character, like you were talking about in our several other episodes,
Oh yeah.
because that character, especially like in the aftermath of all of this, I think would fit in really well. Like, because you would have
Mm.
that radicalized populace of people now that have been through this almost purge situation. And so I think he would fit in really well in the aftermath of that.
Ah, true. I agree.
Well, I think that's going to wrap up our season 2 review here of Castle Rock on Hulu. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Don't forget to hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to check us out on Twitter at ETM Productions. And you can check out Solus at Solus Samurai on Twitter as well to stay up to date with all things Escape the Mind Productions. You can also check us out on YouTube. We're also on SoundCloud. And man, we're on all kinds of things these days. We're on Spotify. And yeah, I think that's about it. So check us out in all those areas. Make sure that you hit that like button. Make sure you follow. Let us know if there's any other things that you'd like for us to cover. As I mentioned, The Outsider earlier, I think we're talking about maybe doing a review of that. There's 5 episodes
I'd be
in right
down.
now. We're both enjoying it. So I think we
Yeah.
might take a look at maybe doing a review of that. I don't know if we'll do it episode by episode, but we might do more of like an overall, or maybe we'll bunch up a couple episodes at once sort of deal.
Yeah.
We're kind of on the fence about maybe doing The Mandalorian just because it's like a little after the fact at this point. So if people
Mhm.
are still interested, let us know in the comment section below. If there's any other shows that you guys would like for us to check out or you think would be in our realm of the Stephen King or supernatural or things of that nature,
Mhm.
mysteries, things like that, we're definitely all on board for those. And don't forget our other podcast, Beyond Explanation. We're coming out with a new episode. We've been on hiatus for a little while. Sorry about that, folks. My computer literally died. Um, we had to do some resuscitation to bring it back to life. But so we're going to be doing our new episode of Beyond Explanation coming up probably next week. That's going to be our first part of, I'm thinking, a two-parter on Dyatlov Pass. And that's an awesome story about 10 hikers that went on a trip to become master hikers in certification. And only one of them ended up making it back alive because he had to turn back before they got really into the hardest parts of the trip. So,
And the whole death thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of hard to come back from that.
Yeah.
So it's a really awesome mystery. It's something that still hasn't been solved to this day, but it's cool because I mean this is the first time that Solus and I have sat down and we're gonna tell the story for you instead of essentially watching a TV show and then kind of recapping it and talking about it. We're
Mhm.
gonna actually sit down and pull all the evidence in that we can. We've read books, we've watched documentaries, we've gone through hours of research, and we're going to try to do our best to pull that together into a cohesive story for everybody. So make sure you stay tuned for that as well. And that'll be our next episode of Beyond Explanation, which again, you can find in all the same places that we listed earlier. So anything to say and wrap up there, Solus?
Yeah, thank you, and thanks everybody.
Hope everybody has a wonderful rest of your night. Good night.